did ask Lindie for something interesting yesterday. She says that she used to work at the Advertising Standards Authority, so there once was something interesting to say about me. Now I am just a lawyer and a working mother of 2 little girls, so I simply don't have the time to be interesting. Well, I don't think that's quite true, but in any event, her favorite things in the whole wide world are her daughters, her husband, books, gin and tonic, preferably with a beautiful African sunset, and the favorite chocolate. So over to you, Lindie.
Very old school, but I'm going to take my jacket off if you don't mind. My topic isn't quite as glitzy and glamorous as the speakers coming next, but they're all millennials, so I don't stand a chance. I hope to be very brief and just take you through what the marketers call 9+1, what I call 10. 10 tips for filing trademarks in Africa. The first tip I think our panelists have very much made clear is that really try and stay away from descriptive trademarks. So we've had some examples. Examples would be you open a little cake shop and you call it the bakery. It's just too descriptive. Things like mugs online for an online business, aqua, those kind of things. The best thing to do is to do a distinctive trademark. So we call them coined words. Things like Google, things like an apple, which appears there in respect of computers as opposed to fruit. Thank you. Nando's, the Nike tick, those kind of made-up word or coined words really are your strongest trademarks. And then don't ever be tempted to steal someone's trademark. There's been case law. I've had clients come to me and say, I saw this great product in America and I want to launch it in Ghana. They'll never know, and I just don't. They will know. It'll come back to bite you. Don't be tempted just to adapt it slightly. My second tip is to do your homework, which nobody likes to do, but only one of the 4 blocks is your homework. The rest is our homework. So the homework that we get our clients to do is to do internet searches, to look at any kind of business directory that you can look at. So whether it is a phone book, whether it's a local newspaper in the area, and if you are planning on opening a business in a particular country, ask around. So have you ever heard of, if you're opening a beauty salon, have you ever heard of a beauty salon called so-and-so? Word of mouth, sometimes people don't have an internet presence, so find out as much as you can about whether the name is available. Then the homework that we do is we search the trademarks register. You can do this in almost all African countries. There are some challenges, of course, but it is definitely a very good way of finding out whether a trademark is available for use. We also suggest that we check company names and company name registers if those are available. And then there are regulatory issues. So you'll probably all be familiar with the FDA in America. Some African countries have similar kinds of regulatory issues. Nigeria, for example, where you can't actually sell a product unless it is registered with a particular regulatory body. So the third tip is to commit to your trademark. So don't be kind of half-hearted and think, well, we can always rebrand in 2 or 3 years' time, because you're going to a lot of trouble and quite a lot of expense with your trademark once you've chosen it. Try and really, hang on to that and be quite committed to it. And also, a lot of African countries, the laws, and in fact around the world, the laws don't allow for slight changes between what you've filed and what you're actually using. So you really need to like your trademark and be committed to it for quite a long time. Then the fourth tip is to be quick. So in at least 16 African countries, they are what we call first to file countries. So the person who files the trademark first is the one who has the strongest rights. It doesn't matter if they are not actually the proprietor of the trademark. It doesn't matter if you have been using the trademark in that country for 20 years. First to file jurisdictions, there's quite a lot of them around the world. And also your distributor, sometimes quite innocently, will be your distributor in an African country, and they'll go and file the trademark in their name, which causes a lot of problems down the line. And as mentioned, use that you've made might not help you in a lot of countries. So get in there as fast as you can. Tip number 5 is to consider translations and transliterations. So there are about 2,000 languages spoken across Africa. So you're not going to be able to find something that has universal appeal. But try and find a trademark that most languages can at least pronounce, that doesn't offend anybody, as this Belgian beer. that doesn't, that isn't culturally insensitive. So my next slide is just to give you some examples where people didn't necessarily do their homework. If you don't know the Spanish meaning of the word pajero, you can Google it, but I think we all know what bimbo means. And then your brand just has that slightly negative thing attached to it, which you don't want. Tip number 6 is to be strategic. I saw at the front of the cover thing that all your papers are in, it says where Adams & Adams has offices in Africa. So we really can help you across the continent. Trademarks, I think someone mentioned in the panel, are completely territorial. So if you file a trademark in South Africa, it protects you in South Africa. If you file a trademark in Nigeria, it protects you only in Nigeria. So you really do need to get protection in each country that you plan to export to or offer your services in. There's one very reliable regional system in West Africa, and then there's a somewhat less reliable regional system in other African countries. But come to us with a full list, your total wish list of where you would like to go, and we can help you come up with the most cost-effective strategy for filing your trademarks in Africa. Tip number 7, sometimes your slogans are purely descriptive and not capable of actually getting trademark protection, but sometimes your trademark is as strong, if not stronger, than your slogan is as strong, if not stronger, than your actual trademark. And here are some examples of really good slogans, where if you hear, another one is if you hear everything keeps going right, you immediately associate that with Toyota. So your slogans are also very important. Then have a digital trademark strategy. So unfortunately, cyber squatters are rife. So your product is successful and somebody immediately registers the trademark name as a domain name, so as a .co.za. There's a lot of others around Africa. There's a .co.mu in Mauritius. Namibia has the .co.na. So as soon as you have a product, it's quite a good idea to get your domain names registered as well. And then, of course, social media, whether it's having a LinkedIn account or a Twitter account, Facebook page, whatever it is, think of all those things. I won't go into detail about the digital calls to action, but there's a lot that you can do in that sphere with hashtags and those kind of things, which there's a presentation on by a millennial. And then spend the money. This sounds like very good legal advice, but the cost in actually filing your trademarks are quite small compared to how much you're actually going to spend on marketing and advertising and launching your product. It's also far easier, the panel will agree with me, in terms of enforcing trademarks. It's much, much easier to enforce a registered trademark right. It's also much cheaper to enforce a registered trademark than a mark that you haven't registered but you've been using in a country for a number of years. And then also it adds value to you in a monetary sense. If you do a due diligence and you have your trademarks registered, that's it's obviously easier to calculate the value, and it's also it's a higher value for that trademark. And then my +1, 10th tip, is to enforce your rights. So often I say to clients, this is what it's going to cost, this is where we suggest you search and file. And they say, but what's the point? You can't even enforce your rights in Africa. But as you've now seen, you absolutely can. It is, our courts have definitely come a long way, and it's possible. Anti-counterfeiting, there's a presentation on that. We've had a lot of success in enforcing trademark rights across Africa. And that was hopefully brief, and I didn't get the sleeping pillow. So that's all.
Thanks very much, Lindie.